I'm Megan Graham, and I'm at the moment. So when a company is able to do that successfully, and people are talking about it, that's like a moment. How did they do that? So I, as a kid, was completely obsessed with Nancy Drew, like absolutely obsessed. I could not get enough of them. I carried them everywhere, and they're kind of heavy books, the yellow ones. So when I started to get a little older, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not gonna be Nancy, but I decided I needed to be a reporter, and I loved the idea of it. I wanted to work at the Chicago Tribune. Anyway, so high school, I was my high school newspaper editor, and then I worked at my college paper, and then of course I graduated in 2012, which was a horrible time to be looking for a journalism job. And I recently looked back at the spreadsheet I kept at the time. I had applied to over 75 jobs and nothing was working. It was horrible. But eventually I did get an offer from the Kokomo Tribune in Kokomo, Indiana. They were hiring a business reporter, so I moved to Kokomo. So it was a great first job. I learned so much. After that, I went to the Chicago Sun-Times. They had just started a business entrepreneurship magazine called Grid, and there were like 2 reporters, and we were doing kind of cool, like big swing, big business profiles, and it was amazing. It was so cool. And that's when I came across Ad Age, and they interviewed me for a tech reporter job, but they were like, you know, what we really need is a media agency reporter. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't know if I'm the girl for the job. They're like, you'll be fine. You'll get it. So when the journal job opened up 4 years ago, I was like, I'm your girl. You got to hire me. So I've been there for the last 4 years, and it's been great. CMO Today is interesting because we do sort of operate as a trade within the journal. So while we hopefully are writing for a broader audience and write things that are interesting for a broader audience, that's the reader we care about most, and writing something that's valuable for a CMO. So right now, I think a lot of it, obviously not all of it, but a big part of it is kind of breaking into the zeitgeist. As we know, it is so hard, like with all the noise out there right now. Companies just want people to be talking about them in a positive way. And so when a company is able to do that successfully, and people are talking about it, that's like a moment. How did they do that? Let's break down exactly. So things like that. And then obviously breaking down the trends, what's happening and how to navigate it. And obviously, AI is the thing that our readers cannot get enough of right now. How are companies using it in a cool way, and kind of at the forefront of doing all this, because none of us really know what's going to happen with it. But if they're doing something interesting from an experimental perspective, our readers are fascinated by that. We obviously, every reporter will say this, we want to be the first to write about something or the first to write about it in a certain way. So I find, just thinking back and looking at the stories I've written, the ones that ended up being the most interesting or that I thought were the best, not coming from a pitch, they were moments where I see something and then I'm noticing the chatter on social media, and maybe they don't even think, I don't need to pitch this to, like, whatever, it's just a small thing. Like, those are the moments I think often companies need to be even more proactive and come to us before these things happen. But those are kind of the moments where I think the stories end up being the most interesting. Tons of podcasts. I love Up First from NPR. I love The Daily and The New York Times. The Journal podcast is great. Our newsletters that we do, so obviously CMO Today, a lot of people say, oh, that's the first thing I read in the morning. I read a little bit of everything. Reporters love to share articles. Like, whatever's on the cut, we're always talking about. We love that. New York Magazine. And, you know, it's a little bit of everything. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I spend a lot of time on TikTok. I don't watch a ton of TV news, but I watch a ton of TV. But yeah, I'm always on my computer, always on my phone. So I read a little bit of everything. I love to cook. And when I was single and it was just cooking for myself, I would have to send my mom pictures and say, Mom, look what I made. Tell me it looks good. So I still do it. I'm still in the habit, even though now I cook for my boyfriend. But I made crispy rice and with smoked salmon, and I was very excited about it. So I had to send my mom some pictures, and I don't know if you can see this, but it turned out really good. And I eat all but 2. I let Andrew have 2, but it was really good.